We're doing lovely today.
Good. All right. Listen, today's topic is the conversation. There are some things that definitely need to be spoken about. And Nyk, we're gonna talk about you. What will we actually say that you're doing? Turning the world around. Bringing them back, the scammers.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
rehabilitating the scammers. That's
either that or harassing them.
right. Something you doing something. Listen, it is definitely working. So, and also, let's talk about this. Let's just jump right into it. So, I go to Roogle. You with us?
With you.
All right. So we got Roogle and Nyk. Our team is up in here. I go to McDonald's. I'm gonna just say it. I go to McDonald's, and can you believe that McDonald's? Okay, I ordered a medium fry, and it was $2.49. I gave her a $5 bill. I couldn't figure out why I was in the line so long. I got back there and I paid her with the $5 bill. And I was like, well, what is the problem? So I'm telling her what my change is, $2.51. So I'm looking like, oh man, is it that she don't understand how much change I should be getting back or what? So I'm like, take your phone out your back pocket, use the calculator, do something. So I wait there probably like 10 minutes. It seemed like 10 minutes. It probably was 7 or 8. Anyway, long story short, she gives me my change back and she says, $2.35. I said, excuse me? And she said, $2.35. And then I said, you're missing something. And she said, well, we don't have any change. So this is all the change that we have. I said, so wait a minute. So this is all the change that you have because y'all don't have change because it's a change shortage. You're going to short me? I said, well, just give me the dollar. I said, you can take this 35 cents back and just give me the dollar. It's a $1 billion company. She said, she was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but we don't have any change. I said, I need to see a manager. How are you going to short me my change because of a problem that you have? What's your thoughts on that?
You know what? Before this even happened, I remember I went to like places and they'd be like, let's say it was something 99 and they'd be like, you know, you give them the money, they won't give you any change back. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? You know, and they're like, well, you know, it's only a penny. I'm like, it don't matter. It's my penny. It's not your money to make the decision on. You know what I mean? Is this some BS? You know, and if you don't have the change to give people back, then you need to say, hey, you need to pay with credit card only, or you need to round down to the nearest dollar.
Right.
Dunkin' Donuts has shortchanged me a couple times over the last month or so. A lot of places, you know, it gets to the point where sometimes if I go to Dunkin' Donuts or a couple other places, they will put in, you know, please use your credit card, or if you got that Dunkin' Donuts app and you pay for it, they ask you to do it that way. Walmart and Hermitage, and put it on out there because it's on the news. They had been shortchanged me or having somebody outside let people know that, you know, you're not getting your money back. If you using currency, you got to get a card. And
I can respect that though. I can respect somebody telling me in advance that, okay, we don't have change. But go ahead and finish it.
but a lot of people are upset about that, which I don't understand why. If they telling you they don't have change, either you buy a card, one of the green dot cards or whatever, Walmart gift cards, or use your debit card or whatever. If you everybody got a debit card, and can't nobody tell me they don't. You got a prepaid debit card or something. But the thing is, somebody got to the news and reported it. I think it was 27. 27 reached out to them and they lied and said, no, it was just a customer that was kind of over exaggerating or however they said it. I can't remember. And they turned around the next day, 27 busted them because they sent one of their investigators in. And yeah, so don't lie about it. Just say, but yeah, I'm not understanding where this change shortage is coming from. I mean, yes, it was a pandemic, but that was involved with the health, not with the money. So what's going on? You got all this money being made all the time. I don't know if the Federal Reserve, my aunt used to work for the Federal Reserve, but I don't know, because they make money all the time. Come on now. change, dollar bills, 20. They make money all the time. So why is there a change shortage? Where is this coming from?
Well, that has been going on with the change shortage, probably because a lot of people are using their cards. So you're trying to make everybody do it. And no, you're not going to sit there and have dibs on me that way. My thing is, don't steal from me. That's the issue that I have. I like the fact that if there is somebody out there that's telling you, okay, we don't have change. Well, guess what? If I knew that they didn't have change at that McDonald's for that medium fry I got, I wouldn't have gone. I would have left. So now you lose the whole $2.49. Roogle, I want you to weigh on this. How do you feel about that? And Roogle did say that use an alternative paying method. And if we don't have it, can you use a credit card? And you're right, because Duncan is one that'll tell you that credit cards only. Roogle, what's your thoughts?
I was just looking up like why was a change shortage, and then basically they're saying that because of the circulation of stuff. The issue I have with it is is kind of funny. Well, it's not funny at all. But I guess the thing to me is like, for me personally, like I got like jars of change, right? For whatever reason, I just like, hey, I just got it, whatever. And I'm willing to sell it to anybody if I can get 7% on it.
He said
that's a business mind. That's a business.
Hey, I don't blame you. Yeah, do it.
So give me $1.07 for every dollar I give you. That, because think about it like this: when you put the change into those change machines, they take away 7%.
Yes, they do.
You only get 97 cents for every dollar. You know what I mean? So you put in there, what is that? You put in there like $15, you're gonna be short of the whole buck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my experience had happened. I shared it, and I'm telling you, I said I can't make this up. Somebody was on the phone, and then the live studio audience experienced the same thing at a different place. What was that? Yesterday? What happened? You have to go up.
The lady only gave me. She didn't give me my 2 pennies because she didn't have change.
See, Roogle?
Yeah. So I ended up giving her 8 cents so she could give me a dime because she didn't have any pennies.
I'm telling you, it's different. My situation, once the manager came, she was like, well, what's the problem? I said, the problem is that she owes me $2.51 and she gave me $2.35. Now, what really got me is that, to me, I felt as though she was insulting my intelligence. Because when she gave me the $2.35, she said the $2.35 in my hand, like I was okay with it. Like, okay, go ahead forward, like $2.35, like that's my change. So I had a problem with that. I'm like, did she just assault my? I said, you missing something? And then she said she didn't have change. So she wasn't even saying, I don't think she would have said anything had I not said anything. It's like, okay, I got over.
Because
how many? Oh, go ahead, Roogle. What you say?
Because they're probably being programmed by their supervisors and stuff, and say, just give them the closest amount that you can, and if they catch it, they catch it. If they don't, they don't.
In most places like that, they do.
That's exactly what the live studio audience was saying. She said that wait, what were your exact words?
I don't recall now, but I just told her it appears that either you don't know how to count or that you are stealing it.
Oh,
and so that's how it looks. I said, you might need to speak to your manager about doing this differently because this falls on you.
It really does, because you're right. It does look like she's stealing it, like what you doing with my extra money. Or you don't know how to count, because I felt like she didn't know how to count. I'm like, if you don't take that phone out your back pocket and use the calculator or something. And then when she finally said it, but I was offended when she sat there and said $2.35. She gave me all these nickels. And I said, we're missing something.
Mine just gave me the change without saying it again. And I knew I should have had 2 more pennies. And I said, so you're just going to keep my pennies? And she was like, well, I don't have any pennies. We don't have any change.
So like, what, like what Nyk was saying, hoping you just go on.
But maybe you should ask, tell me this. And maybe I'd say, well, don't worry about it. I said, but just to take it from me. I said, that's a little different. I said, here, I'm going to give you 8 cents and you can give me a dime.
Yeah, see, that's
And
nuts
that way
to
I
me.
could have my 2 pennies.
And I told her when she said that they didn't have the all they had was just the 35 cent for change. I said, well, go ahead and give me. I said, you can take this 35 cent back and give me $1. This is $1 billion company. Why are you taking from the people that barely have?
Yeah.
And to make that company richer? Like, to me, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done. And what people need to do, the reason I'm bringing it up, what people need to do is pay attention, because they're doing this. And then you're looking like, okay, wait a minute, you just drop it in, especially with change. You just drop it in your purse, or a guy might, might have like the ashtray. Remember, everybody put the penny, their change in the ashtray, and just dump it in thinking that, okay, until you look like, wait a minute, I should have had, but you already pulled off. So how do you defend that?
Well, the interesting thing is that it seems to be the going thing.
That's what Nyk said.
That how are you
It
just
was
going
a lot of places.
if you don't have enough change to give me?
That's your
then,
fault.
yeah.
Give me the stuff free.
Right.
Give me the stuff free. Your fault that you are not prepared.
Yeah, but you just shouldn't take from me. I just paid you, and you probably overcharged me for what I paid for anyway.
Absolutely, because you get it at wholesale rates, and
Right.
and then you're gonna take my money.
Right. You take the loss. You don't. You're the one that don't have that.
Right.
Change.
Right. And to me, I just think that people need to pay more attention. That's why I brought it up. Pay more attention when you go through those drive-throughs. Make sure you're getting what it is that you're supposed to get, the correct change. And if you don't, give this stuff back and refund me all my money. I bet you they get together then, because they're losing money altogether. And then guess what? You just lost that because you can't resell it. Like, get out, don't buy it. And just like Nyk was saying at Walmart, and yes, we are the news, we the media, so we can talk about it.
Right.
And in Walmart and Hermitage, how do you sit there and you say, okay, well, first of all, I like the fact that they said that what they don't have, and they gave you an option. So you didn't have an option. She just took your little 2 pennies, just like Roogle said. You just taking my penny, like, that's my penny.
You're supposed to count your pennies. The dollars add up for themselves.
Right. And it's just like, how are you going to dictate what I get when I'm buying something from you, and the only way that you are in business is because of me, and you want to take from me? Not okay. Not okay. So
I'm getting ready to do what they usually do when they be blaming stuff on our old president, and he ain't have nothing to do with it. This didn't happen when Obama was in the office. This is the orange man's fault. It's his fault. Because they
used to do that too. That's so funny.
Obama ain't been president for 4 years, and he's still getting blamed for stuff that happening now. Nah, bruh, your president is the one that's in the office now. This is his fault. It didn't happen with no other president but this man.
Just respect the person. Respect people who respect you. That's what I'm gonna say. But look, and I'm gonna use that loosely. You heard me. I'm gonna use it loosely.
Right.
I would not patronize a store who is stealing from me. You got a problem, you kick us out the store if you think that we're stealing. You got your little cameras in the back, your security. But if you steal from me, it's supposed to be okay.
It's okay.
No, I'm not shopping there. If you can't give me my proper change, if you don't have what I need, I'm not shopping there. And that's what we need to do. And if you go to those fast food restaurants and they don't want to give you your change, your proper change, give them all the food back and go to one who actually can accommodate you without stealing from you. That's a problem. I just can't go back somewhere. Look, you see where I got now? I can't go back somewhere if you stole from me.
And you know what? There's a lot of stores that have, as soon as you walk in the door, if you actually pay attention, because some people don't pay attention when they walk in the doors. I pay attention. They have signs and let people know that they are short on change. A lot of these stores have been doing that lately too. But a lot of people don't pay attention when they walk in there, and they just, one track mind, and you fussing with your kids, fussing with your husband or whatever, and you walking in not really paying attention. But I bet
they're paying attention if you think you're gonna walk in without a mask. You're going to pin right back to that car and get your mask. I'm like, you're going to pin right back. They're going to catch you. Roogle. So are you telling us that your next vehicle will be bought in the jar of change? Your little big jar.
It just might be. It just might be.
Just throw it up there, like, you have to look at
It just might be. It just might
Like
be.
I'm about to buy a new car in change only.
Change.
Hey,
Here go my nickels.
I got about $30 worth of change in my little, because I got a little penny bank, look like a mason jar, and it has the counter on top. Put that money in here, and it tells you how much you got.
A lot of people use those like, remember, what was it, 10-gallon or 5-gallon water jugs?
Yeah. I used to use one of them too, the 5-gallon ones.
Well, listen, they need some change. Roogle is on to something. If you pay me $1.07 for each dollar, might as well. That's a businessman. That's a business mind.
Yep.
All right, Roogle, let's get right into it. Let's talk politics.
Well, I come today to Shop Talk on Mel with a sad heart today, because last night we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a Supreme Court justice for the United States Supreme Court. She had battled cancer over the last few years or so. And I don't know what her, I know she had another bout of cancer that she was fighting, but I don't know exactly if that would, you know, how basically I think it probably led to her death, but they didn't really say all that. But anyway, we lost her. And what this means for us is that President Trump has the opportunity to be able to replace her position with another nomination to the Supreme Court, which would lead in the situation to have a majority of conservative or Republican appointed justices. So we're in a situation where it is almost imperative that Biden get elected, because the Supreme Court lays in the balance of this. And the reason I say this is because currently Supreme Court Justice Roberts, he was appointed by Bush, but he's actually done things in a nonpartisan way. And the people that the people that Trump has appointed have been really aligned to things that aren't necessarily that don't necessarily take in the scope or progression of America, but taking a political line of what the super conservative Republicans will want it to be. And so some people may view this as like gay marriage potentially being overturned, women's reproduction rights being overturned, you know, and all of this and all these other things that people feel that you should have a right to. So the main theme is so much hangs in this presidency, in this next who becomes elected in the fall, that depending on how you want our futures, and when I say this, like not just we can't look at it as the next 4 years, we can't look at it as the next 8 years or whatever, but we have to look at it as the lifetime of those people who make the decisions on how our country is ran, and how do we want those decisions to be made. So we really, truly got to go out here and evaluate what we want our country to be, and who is going to be that person that's going to be able to have us get to that goal. And if it's not the person we currently have, then you need to get out and vote for the person you think it will be. So that's a big thing. Also, what has happened is that the New York Times, they introduced a curriculum for students to learn American history, and it was called the 1619 Project. Do you remember that? Anyway, it goes back to talk about, you know, we need to look at America from when the first slave ships came here, and that was 1619, and talk about how that has impacted America and everything like that. So what Trump has come out and said is that he wants to support a curriculum that focuses on 1776, and talks about America, like, you know, because he feels like the other curriculum makes people want to hate America versus telling the truth about what America is. The issue for me is that if you talk about 1619 or 1976, it's still a history of American cult of America. It's still a history, a retelling of American history that involves slavery, that involves subjugation, that involves these terrible, heinous acts that was pulled out by the government in that time. Now we want to talk about the independence from Great Britain and stuff, and that's cool. But the issue is that the underlying fact is it doesn't matter if it was 1619 or 1776. Slavery didn't end until, like, what was it, 1830? Was it 1858, 1850, 1856, 53, 56, 58, whatever. But
I was 1858.
Yeah, but the point I'm saying is, like, it's still, from that point, it's still like 100 years of this, like, BS, you know what I mean, of stuff that was horrible. So it's like, you don't want people, like, you want to erase the fact that these things happen, and
They want to erase it and tell us to get over it.
Exactly.
That was 400 years ago. Get over it.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
And the thing is that he also wants to stop. There was federal funding that talked about, you know, racism and social justice and that sort of thing. And he wants to remove the funding from that because he said he wants to say, if you train on that, we will not fund it and take it away. So now all the work that people are saying about train police officers and, you know, and the federal government to be more equity based and equality based when it comes to working with minorities, he wants to take all that away. You know, so he talks about he does the most for Black people, but he doesn't want to put in the money to educate people. It's like one of those things where you get people to say, well, you know, they want to take the money out of prevention, right? If this was a drug issue, would you stop telling kids not to do drugs? Would you stop telling people about the negative health effects about it? No, you would want to have a prevention strategy. And these prevention strategies is coming in education to tell people, like, hey, this is wrong, and this is how things should be, or this is how we want things to potentially be. He wants to remove all of that. You know, he wants to remove the prevention part of racism, right? Like, that's how I view it. And with that, what happens after that? What happens when you have people who haven't been enlightened, even if they're forced to do so because it's part of their meeting for work? At least they're in the room, and maybe it might seep in. But when you want to remove that completely and say that these things are figments of everyone's imagination and it doesn't really hold weight, that's not true, you know? And he's perpetuating a future America that will not take responsibility or acknowledge that there is a disparity.
I agree with you on that. Now tell me about the vaccine. The coronavirus.
Ooh, okay.
Vaccine. Let's move on over that way. Go ahead.
They are working on a vaccine, and currently the federal government has put up money, what they call it Operation Warp Speed. And so what this is that they're paying all these pharmaceutical companies monies to be able to get the research done and do what they got to do to bring out a vaccine, you know. And so I think it was AstraZeneca, but it was a pharmaceutical company that came out with a vaccine, and they were testing it, and somebody got severely sick. They didn't say what the sickness was. They didn't say anything about that. But it was enough for them to be like, hey, we got to stop this right now. Right now.
And you know what's interesting? What's interesting about that, they didn't say the race that particular individual was who got really, really sick.
Yeah.
Almost death.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say it was enough to stop the trials. And another issue that came up about the testing was that, I mean, just in general, not just necessarily to that company, was that there are a lot of minorities that are impacted by this, and that do you have minorities to be able to have in your trials? And in the DC area, it was reported on NPR that they had like of their population group that they were their subject group that they were doing the work the experiment on, that they had like 30% of African Americans that did it, which kudos to them. But
and to my understanding, alleged air quotes, it was an African American individual who had that effect.
Might have
Go
been.
ahead.
I mean,
I was reading it, and like I said, it was from another outlet, so that's why I used the air quotes and said allegedly.
It may have been, but like the other issue, not only with race is it an issue, but it's also an issue with obesity too. Because what I found out was that a lot of folks who take certain vaccines, they're ineffective based off of people having a body mass index over 40.
Yes.
So you could be in a situation where you take a vaccine, and it may be a proven vaccine, but they may not work on you because you're overweight. Which I didn't know that. I had no idea about that.
Well, here it's the same thing with medicine. That's why, like, let's look at children's medication. The amount that is used is based on the weight, the kilograms. So you'll know, like, okay, why are we, why do this particular child has to have 2 teaspoons versus 1. And with vaccines, it's usually, let's use our TB vaccine, for example, you're pulling it down to 0.5. So everybody gets the same amount. So that might be something to it as well. If you have a BMI over a certain amount, and a BMI over 40 is overweight, grossly obese.
But they didn't say it like if you had a BMI over that amount that you should get 2 shots or some kind of like.
No, they're not do that.
But I'm just saying, like, they didn't say like it was like a matter of upping the dosage.
Mm-hmm.
But and I get what you're saying about the medication and things like that too. But there's a lot of factors being involved in this, and the president said, well, we'll have something by the time of election day or whatever, blah blah blah, and then like the other people, like the scientists, are saying you'll be lucky if you have something by June.
Right. Here's the thing, you have, like, there's so many vaccines that are out there, and they've taken centuries before they were actually safe to administer to people, to come out. Do you think that this vaccine is politically driven?
Well, I think it's politically driven on the basis that you have the government that's you have the president that's telling you that they're going to do this thing to kind of speed it up. But the issue is that there was a scientist just this week that came out and said the most important thing that people can do right now is wear a mask, because the mask will probably be more effective than a vaccine, just because of getting it out there, getting people to take it, and doing all those other things. Like, it's like take personal responsibility. And we have a president that's now been on the road talking about not to wear a mask, and it's ridiculous and all that kind of stuff. And like he's straddling the fence on this because he wants to appeal to his base, for some reason believes that they shouldn't take personal responsibility to protect themselves with wearing these masks. You know what I mean?
Parents.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Nyk, go ahead and weigh on this. What's your thoughts?
They are trying to me, it seems like you said, it's a political standpoint, trying to rush this vaccine so that way, if it does work before the election, then that's one more notch on Trump's belt, where he could say, well, while I was president, I cured the world and I did. Man, bye with all that. Because he really don't care. To me, it's just like you said, it's going to take a while. And of course, this is new to us, but these sort of pandemics is not new to the world. It seems like every 100 years, it's something that quarantines the whole entire. So, yeah, it's nothing new to the world. Yeah, it's new to us, But if you ask some, if some folks, great grandparents, or some of them that were babies at that time, or little, they can remember the last pandemic that actually had the world quarantined. So yeah, this is nothing new. It's just something that every so many
It's new to us.
100 years the earth is going to go through. It's like a cycle. I mean, it's a pandemic to us, yes, but it's nothing new. It's just something that people are just going to have to get used to until they find a vaccine that's going to work and not make people sick or not kill folks. And sometimes, depending on that person's health, something might not agree with that's in the vaccine, might not agree with. So it's just something we have to learn to live with. I mean, it's not like we're the first.
Okay, can I ask you this question? Something we learned. I have to ask you this question. Something we need to learn to live with. So my question to you is, would you be willing to be part of the trial experiment?
No. They gonna have to have it. They gonna have to have that perfected.
If you don't want to sit there and participate and be part of the trial. I saw where they were saying that they need more African American people to volunteer. Now, we ain't too keen on that because we did it a couple of shows ago. We remember the Tuskegee experiment. Get out of here.
So, keep killing us black folks off.
We're not really like, okay, we're not really gung-ho and ready to just go. But I will say, and I have to, I respect and I appreciate the people that actually are willing to allow, that are putting themselves on the line to say, okay, let's find a cure. So kudos to all of you lovely people who decided, okay, well, I'll come in and you can test me. Now, those are real heroes. Those are real heroes to try, to let's get a hold on this thing. Back when I was talking about do I think that it's politically motivated as far as for the virus? You had a good point. That's a valid point. I didn't think of that as far as like going out of presidency, going out with something on a high, going out on a high, so to speak. And we don't know where the people, who's going to vote for them and who's not. But that's a point to say, hey, this could go down in history. Here's my legacy. This is what I did. I told you guys before, months back, my thought and theory on before it was like close the schools down, close the churches, everybody stay home. We need to get a hold on this thing. That right there, I said, now all of a sudden we're going to open up the churches and the schools, and that's where usually voting happens at. I said, so is it so that people can go out and vote? And my thoughts were getting this vaccination and getting it out there was to get more people, okay, well, I had the vaccine, I can go ahead and go vote. You have people for a moment, they were saying that the antibodies, if you've had it before, you build up antibodies, and go ahead, let's draw some of your plasma in your blood and get it, and let people trial and see if it actually works. Well, it's not working. There's people who actually had it. They supposedly had built up antibodies, but they get it again. So I guess they didn't have enough. So it's all trial and error. That's what it boils down to, trial and error. Go ahead, Roogle.
What you were saying though, like, because I think there was a misconception. People were trying to think like this was like chickenpox or something, where if you get it once, you were okay.
Right.
But we have had cases of people getting it again. Who've had it once. Getting it twice. The other thing is Kent State. I just heard them recently talking about this, and they were saying that after Thanksgiving break that they were going to go back completely virtual, because I guess they have blended learning right now.
And it was a lot of colleges that's like shutting down, like no.
Yeah. So I mean, like if these colleges, like I think it was Alabama. No, it was a college down south. I want to say it was Alabama. They said that 2,500 students came up with it, test positive, and 1,200 professors. So you get like, 3,700 people.
A lot of these elementary schools that went back early, these kids, they got like at least, I think there's this one school in Mississippi, 31 cases of COVID for these kids. So yeah, this is rough. I mean, it's something that we're going to just have to go through. But yeah, it's kind of hard, and you got a lot of parents that refuse. I'm not sending my kids back to school. We okay with doing the online thing, because a lot of people would started doing homeschooling anyway. But then you have some of these parents that need to go out and work. They can't really afford daycare, or, babysitters and things like that. So it's a rough time for everybody. Jobs, they're just now trying to get back to the point where they're hiring, but places aren't open like, were like they were. They're cutting back their staff, they're cutting back their hours. It's rough, but
It hit a lot of
we're not
people.
the only ones.
It affected a lot of people with it, with the coronavirus. And the reason I'm going to say that, the reason that they're probably not hiring the staff that they had before is because you figure you have to, what is it, like how a certain percentage of how many people could go into your establishment
At a time.
So it's like, okay, do I still lose? Because you lost a lot of business when we shut down. You lost a lot of money because you still had that overhead to pay. So now it's like, okay, well, we have this and we're trying to get back on track. They had that, remember, what was it, about a month ago, they had this one Chinese restaurant that had a COVID tax. Hold on a minute. Remember we talked about that? And it was like, wait a second, a COVID tax just because they opened back up. That's not my fault. That's the world's fault, and you trying to tax me. And here I'm going back to what's important to me. Now, I ordered this, and then you're going to tax on a COVID tax. I didn't give y'all COVID, but I have to pay for it, and it's at the bottom, and nobody tells you, the same as these people not giving us our change. Why are you taking from us? That's the issue that I have. Now, as far as for the schools, I can say there's one school that I know for certain that I was watching, they opened. So I need to see, how is this going to affect, our youth? Are they going to be safe? It used to be, to my understanding, 500 students in the building, from the grade was K through 8. Now it's probably not even 100, not even 100, close to 100, like 102 or something like that, that comes because the parents have to work. And then they have virtual. So on certain days, like Monday and Tuesday, they'll have K through 3. And Thursday and Friday, they'll have 4 through 8. So they have certain people in the classroom. They don't change the classes anymore. They have them in the same classroom, and then they just do one clean. And then on Wednesday, no one comes and they clean. They do a thorough cleaning, so no one is there. As far as for the 6 students, I haven't seen many. That place is so together, which is a good thing. The lunch aides actually take the food to the classroom so they can stay, instead of, so they keep their social distancing, and they don't have to worry about interacting with other people. So the teacher is in that classroom. So God forbid, if something were to occur or somebody tested positive, they knew who they were in contact with.
Right.
So
the elementary school that my nephew goes to down there in Houston, what they're doing is, my niece, she going to the same elementary school, it's her first year. What they're doing is they're having, like, because it's such a large population, they have large, so it's like they half it up. 1 week, half of the kids are going to school and the other half are learning online. And then the next week they have the other one. So it's like they're trying to figure out how they're going to do it. If they're going to do it like every other day, once a week, you have half the students there, and then the other half the next week. And so they're still playing with things like that, but it seems to have worked so far. They their first week of school, everybody was online. Then the following week, like my niece, she was in kindergarten, she went. She's been there for the last 2 weeks. My nephew was still online, and then last week was his first week in the classroom. I believe he's in the classroom again this coming week, and then they'll be back online for like a week or 2. So they're trying to.
I will say one thing: if there is a sick child, the parents are on it. Now, the one particular day, this one lady said, I'm not able to come pick the child up. Now, that was an issue for me during this time. You can't pick the child up at this time. And it wasn't symptoms of the coronavirus or COVID or anything. But for something like that, and at this time, if your child doesn't feel well and you say off top, I can't come and pick my child up, I said, well, I'll go to the next person on the list. Because somebody, especially during this time, someone has to pick you. If you have your child going into the building, the brick and mortar, someone has to pick your child up. Roogle, as an educator, and you were dealing with, I know you were dealing with the little people. How do you think the teachers feel as far as teaching virtually and in the classroom?
Well, I think the thing is that whenever you're doing anything, you want to have people present, you know. And I think like the learning curve, as far as for the distant learning, it's an issue because you can't it's so many moving pieces to control. Before, when you had one classroom to manage, you know, you had to use your classroom management skills, and you could probably be able to manage all 20 kids and make sure they're on task. You know, when you're online learning, it takes a lot of self-discipline from those students to be engaged in what's going on. And I think that could be one of the shortfalls. The other thing is that, like, you know, remember how the teacher would walk the aisles when you're doing homework and kind of look and see what you're doing and stuff like that. And kind of, you know, does it make it harder for them to be able to do that, since, you know, I don't know if the work is being projected on a teacher's screen and she sees or he sees, you know, 20, you know, little pictures of this, that, and that, or, you know, so it takes away some of that, some of the opportunities for that, for that engagement. But also the other end of that is it could provide more opportunities for, you know, one-on-one education, if you need to actually like say, okay, this is what you need to do, and in real time give them information on how they need to adjust those things. You know, I think there's pros and cons to it. I think ultimately, when we look at, if we keep education in the same old framework that it's always been, it's going to be difficult. If we say, let's start anew, and this is a new day, like colleges made the transition to working online or having some kind of hybrid of online homework. You know, like when I was in college, I used Blackbook and all that kind of stuff. You know, I submitted my homework.
Blackboard? Yeah,
Blackboard, yeah. Blackbook. I use Blackbook too. But the point was it was an integration of being in the classroom but submitting my stuff online. You know what I mean? So, you know, they've been making that transition, and I think it's about time. I mean, unfortunately, it's forced, but it should have happened a long time ago. Even with
for the little people, though.
Well, maybe not for little people, but I'm just saying, like, well, I would say like this. Yeah, for the little people, but for the little people in a way that, like, okay, how are we teaching them to use technology? You know, like, I understand teaching the crayon and the pencil and how to, you know, the digital dexterity and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing too. But I mean, as education advances, those technologies need to be taught at all levels. You know what I mean? So, I mean, is it too far-fetched to say that a preschool class should probably have keyboarding? I don't know. It may not be, you know, because it's like, hey, everybody identify the letter. I don't know if you ever learned how to, if you went to a typing class or not, but they'd be like, type A, type B, you know.
I was in the 11th grade.
Yeah.
Look, I knew my alphabet by then.
But I mean, you knew your alphabet by then. But the thing is like this. Like they talk about introducing foreign language earlier. So what if you learned keyboarding when you were like in the 3rd grade?
Okay, so now this is what I want to say about that. Remember, they were talking about taking cursive writing out, which they did for a few years. Yeah. That would be the same thing. So typing, and yes, going into this new and improved computer digital age, that's fine. But how do you teach them how to write in cursive? Now, I could be in a cursive translator. They could pay me big. to go ahead and read some in cursive writing, but we still need to know how to.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. When's the last time you remember actually submitting a paper in writing?
Submitting a paper to the classroom or writing?
If submitting a handwritten assignment, when's the last time you've done that? When's the last time you've done it? Anybody?
I write letters that way.
No, I mean for assignments, for like
assignments.
Yeah.
No, it's printed because a lot of people can't understand everyone's writing.
So let's look at it like this. So basically, even before there was like word processors and stuff like that, when people were in school and they had to write a paper or something like that, they wrote it on a typewriter. Now in high school and stuff, they give you the opportunity to be like, oh, okay, you got to write it out. You need to be neat. You need to do all this, all the spaces and all that kind of stuff. But they did that. Why? Because it was a lack of technology to give the people to be able to do it.
Don't be acting like I'm that old.
I'm not old. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, like, you don't have to be that old for that to be your experience. You know what I mean?
We used to have to write letters. Yeah, we used to have to write assignments.
Yeah. So like, okay. When I started school back in the 90s, I mean, college in the 90s, they expected my homework to be typed out. Mm-hmm. It was the only thing I didn't type out was in math.
Oh, well, yeah, college was different though.
College, you had to type stuff, but when you in elementary and high school, they still expected you to write it, but they still need to learn cursive because when you sign the application, they want you to print your name and then they want your signature.
To sign your name.
But the thing is, the reason they had those standards in high school was because there wasn't enough technology to go around. Now, if they knew that if they had a typewriter or word processor in every child's home, you think they'll be telling them to write it out? Or would they be telling them to type it?
They will have them to print it so that they can actually read it. Because that was the issue with cursive writing, let's be honest. You couldn't read everybody writing. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't even do it, so let's all do it one way. Now, as far as like the children being so small, okay, here's a letter A, here's a letter R, that's fine. But what about the attention span? And I have a few questions that people ask me to address on Shop Talk with Mel. So we're going to address those issues regarding this subject. I spoke to some high schoolers, and their complaint about the whole virtual learning is we do more work at home than we did in the classroom in the 45 minutes. So they have 3 hours worth of work virtually, and in the classroom, they're in there for 50 minutes. Go ahead.
But the reason that is because like then that's a bonus to them being virtually learned, having the virtual education component than having a classroom one. Because we talk about classroom management, right? And sometimes a large portion of classroom management is the class ready to learn. Now I know everybody's been in the classroom where the teacher's like, well, I'm not going to start until you stop. Right? But if I'm virtually learning, I mute everybody. Everybody's in separate, like the only thing that's bothering those folks is what's happening in their home. Right? So if I just mute everybody and I just go and I start talking and teaching or whatever like that, I'm able to cram in more stuff than I would be when I have to like settle people down, wait for them to pull out their books and do all that other stuff. So I mean, I think there's and the thing is, really, when we think about the time length and proficiency with some students, they should have more time in certain subjects. So
okay, I think he answered your question. I feel her though, because the work that's expected is 3 hours worth of work during that time, due by the next day. Versus, so if every student say, how many classes is it? 7? It's like
not now. It's like you'd be lucky if it's 5. You know what I mean?
Okay, so 5 classes assigning 3 hours of work, or let's do 2.
Because like right now, go ahead.
So that's like 10 hours worth of work in one day. If everybody had like 2 hours worth of work, I've seen some of it. I was like, wow, makes you say I should have just went to school.
Well, I think the thing is though, like, because when I seen like this stuff, like you got to remember too, though, there's no class on like in Youngstown City schools, there's no class on Wednesday.
Okay, right. That's what I'm saying. That's like,
no class on, you know, so like
they clean on Wednesday, so no class on Wednesday. Okay.
No class on Wednesday. So you get an opportunity to be able to do stuff. The thing is now is that we have to have our children they have to be time management oriented.
The little people, time management oriented. That's hard to do.
Like you saying the little people, but I mean, how little is these people? Like, I mean, like
students, you have to get to that place. Listen. Let's look at this. Okay, people see puppies. Okay, not that I'm saying the children are puppies, but let's look at a puppy. A puppy hopping around and jumping and doing good stuff. The time that a puppy sit down, when it sits down, is when it's a dog. And it's like, okay, I'll go eat and I'll go do that. But puppies, they're all over the place. So it's the same thing with us. We are people, and when we are young, we got all that energy and we got to get it out. We got to sit in front of a computer all day and not do nothing.
Okay, but the thing is like, go ahead. The preschoolers, they don't go as long. They don't go a whole day and all that stuff, and they do their thing. I think let's
go first and second graders.
I would have to pull up the sheet to see, because I do have a sheet of the things, but there are breaks throughout that time and that sort of thing. But when I was in first grade, I don't remember any of this like running around stuff that you're talking about. I remember first.
Oh, I had a good time.
Well, not where I went to school at. Not at elementary.
First grade, yeah, we had stuff, but we had gym.
Yeah, you had gym, but that was like what one day a week. That wasn't every day.
Yeah, you're right.
We had recess every day, so yeah.
Recess every day.
Yeah, you have recess every day, and they give them a break or whatever. You get a break and you get a lunch break and stuff like that, and it's not as long. But you're also talking about like children. People have the ability, like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom. Go. They ain't, there's no raising hands and waiting for somebody to acknowledge you and all that stuff to leave the room. Like there's a lot more of that, like. There's a lot more independence being put on the students to be able to say, I have to manage my time within. If I'm going to take my learning seriously, then I know I can't goof off and stuff, right? Because sometimes when you're in school, you're like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. Not to say you didn't have to use the bathroom, but you kind of needed a break. Or the teacher would be like, okay, everybody's getting kind of fatigued. Let's line up at the door, and now everybody goes to the hallway, go use the bathroom, get a drink of water, right? You know? When this setting, you're eliminating those sort of things. And like, to me, I just kind of feel like it's unfortunate that these events led to this, but this was potentially going to be the future of education from my thoughts anyway, that it would be more integrated with technology because no one wants the funding isn't adequate to do what it should be doing anyway. And the lack of educators from K through 12 is not increasing. Not more people aren't getting into education. They're getting away from it. It's harder to find teachers, especially that qualify in science and math and STEM curriculums. It's tougher to find those folks. And the thing is like, so how do you educate everybody? Like, I wouldn't be surprised. You remember, like, when you go to college or whatever, and it's like that one class you have, and it's like maybe 100 students in an auditorium or something like that, like some kind of beginning class,
astronomy.
Here's the beginning class. Everybody come in and learn it. But if you're serious about it, you start getting into smaller classes and stuff like that entry class. I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing things like, well, here's this history class, or here's this class, whatever the class is, that has 100 students in it. Now, we would personally be upset because we know that the smaller the ratio, the better outcome for students.
Right, the more help you get.
But with the trend of how many people are actually getting into education and the needs being met for students, is going to lead to larger classrooms. So how do we offset that and be able to give people an individualized education. So it might be, hey, you have this large classroom, but then you have this lab that is not as big. And that's what's happening right now in the Youngstown City schools, is that they'll have a class, it might be math, it might be like 45 minutes in this particular classroom setting with everybody, but then there's breakout sessions for a half an hour or whatever it is for more intricate, to meet those individual needs. And it's like Head Start. Head Start has has the same example. Like early Head Start, early childhood education, pre-K, they had large group and small group. They've been doing that for years.
Okay, but okay, now let's add this in. I definitely want to address these other questions that parents are concerned with as well. The parents here, first of all, what you're saying, I get it, and you want to do. When someone is next to you, you don't want to, and you're talking about, I don't know which phase that is, autonomy versus shame, or initiative versus guilt when you're dealing with the younger children. So yes, they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt your feelings. They want to please the adult in the room at that age. If you're on here, the parent has to be right with the student. What about the working parent? How do they end up, how do they teach their children? How do they keep them on task when they have to work? That's one. And then also when you have multiple students that are in school at the same time, like a fourth grader or a kindergartner and maybe a high schooler, how does that work? Because it was one lady who went to work and the teacher texted her and told her that her son was asleep in class. And here's the issue. They couldn't be in the same room because of all the different grades they were in, and they were learning different things. So you have that distraction of what are you doing, that whole thing. So they're in their rooms. And so the mother was upset, and she said, probably because his classroom is in his bedroom. He was like still laid in the bed. She's at work. So he signs in, she's at work. She gets a text saying that he's asleep in classroom. She can't leave work to go home to make sure that her child, who is in the 6th grade, is awake. You know what I mean? That one being in the 6th grade, but he was in his bed. But the picture that she showed, he was in his bed under the blanket, like sleep. So when she gets off work, she has to say he got a 0 for that class because he was asleep. But here it is, and he was in the 6th grade. But it's like, what about the younger person? You're penalizing them for not being adult enough and responsible enough to be in their classroom and to be where they are.
Well, the first thing is that you get, I mean, let's look at it like this. It isn't like we're saying like, let's just do this and educate all kids from home just because, right?
Well, there's a reason behind it, we know.
There's a reason behind it. And there was also people who educated who had homeschool children, right?
I was one.
And so when they did homeschooling, especially now, it's not like, well, the parent is teaching the kid. It's like, oh, we got this computer and I'm going through these lessons.
Let me tell you how the homeschooling that I did.
Okay.
It worked. It worked because, and I had to stay on the older children, had to stay on them, but they were responsible for this amount of work by this date. It wasn't that same day. Mm-hmm. And that's how it kind of worked. Okay, by this day, and then, you know, I had time to go through and be like, okay, is this done? Is this done? Is this done? Let me see, and to micromanage to make sure all is well.
And part of what you're saying is something that I've been trying to advocate for a long time, is that the education system K through 12 needs to have, pre-K through 12, they need to have a syllabus, because that's what you had. You had a syllabus.
Yes.
And it basically told you everything that was due when you had to get it done and all that other stuff, right? You know, and it, like and children don't have that today. They don't have that. You know, it's like, well, if you gave everybody, like when I was in school, you knew like, okay, there's a spelling test every Friday, right? What you didn't know was that the teacher was going to go to like chapter 12 first versus going to chapter 10, you
right?
Know, for whatever reason. Which those are things that kind of things that happened because they felt like you should learn this before you learn that, and they, you know,
build on. Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that like, I can't speak for that household, you know, but if you have a child if you have children that cannot fend for themselves in that situation, you are making the decision to leave that child there by themselves. Now, I don't know if that means send them to grandparents, have a babysitter, doing all that other stuff. Because the downside of this whole thing.
Well, you can't afford it, just like Nyk was saying.
Okay,
Sometimes you can't afford child care.
That's what I was going to say.
Everybody's working day shift. You have to work in order to pay your bills so you can have an electric to plug in these devices.
Okay.
So
the downside to this is that our school system has doubled as a child care facility.
yes,
You know, it has. But the concern is it's not like they're saying we just want to do this for the sake of doing it. We're doing it because even if your child gets sick and they're asymptomatic, you may catch it and not be. You know what I mean? So, I mean, because this was an issue that I tackled this week. Somebody came to me and they said that they were told that it was a mandate that they be home with the child while they were being educated. And when I looked at the policy, there was no such mandate.
No, I saw that too. Somebody mentioned that, and I said I don't see it. I read it, I didn't see it.
It's no such mandate. I mean, you know, and I even checked with some people. It's like, no, we haven't addressed that issue. You know, that's up to the parent. You know how they do that. So, you know, you go and you think about like, okay, if I have a child that's in the 6th grade, are they responsible enough to log on, do what they got to do, and participate in the class? Now, if my kid is a kindergartner, well, I wouldn't leave them home alone. You know what I mean?
No, definitely not.
But the 6th grader, I mean, that's questionable. You know, based off of a lot of different things. You know how that parent evaluates their ability to be able to do such a thing. But I think the thing is that we're looking at this as it's changed based upon a pandemic. If it was systematic change based off of what was best for learning, I think it would be done differently. And it was one thing I advocated early on for our school district before this happened, was that we start to go one-to-one with technology, meaning every student had a device. And I was saying this in 2015.
Before it happened.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you were the one to talk about TV curse words. See, you seen it at the beginning. The forefront. You seen it at look. You're like, hey, wait a minute, I see this.
Yeah, but the thing is it's like we talk about having our kids ready for the next gen for what's
for the world, ready for the world.
But we're not integrating technology into their learning process.
Okay, now wait, let me
being forced to do so, and we're having a lot of loss doing it.
We are. Okay, here's the last one. Oh, don't need to read it verbatim. Parent is in the household. So you do have a lot of parents that are in the household, and you have the student. The student is a great parent. I mean, a great student, and the parent might not be so grand. These parents are having issues with the teacher telling them what they need to do in their household. Meaning, now see, listen, this stuff is real, and I appreciate, keep those questions coming. This parent came in and she was getting ready to cook for her child. I thought that the teachers had the ability to mute, but instead the child's computer was unmuted and they heard all the pots and pans. And the teacher called the child out. So now you have an issue because the child said, with all the noise and they said this particular child's name, we're gonna have to hold on because of all the noise in this particular child's name house. And that's what the parent said. So now that's what the teacher said. So now the parent comes in on the screen and she said, you don't run. So now they're going back and forth. You don't run what goes on in my house. If you have a problem, and she was right, she didn't say it like that, but she was right, muted. I'm cooking for my child. It's about to be lunchtime. You got me being a lunch aide. It's about to be lunchtime.
Well, you know, and I think though too, when we're learning how to use this technology, people like even when I'm on meetings now, if it's a phone conference, if it's Zoom or whatever, there has to always be an announcement. Oh, everybody mute their line. If you're not speaking, mute your line or whatever, because you can hear background noise, right? That's a common occurrence of things that happen. Now, I don't know how the teacher addressed it, You know, because really it's how you address things that get you in
Yes.
and out of trouble. You know what I mean? You know, but the constant thing should be, hey, if you're not asking a question, because on there you can put like your hand up or something like that. You can put a coffee cup up to say you're taking a break or whatever. Like you can do a lot, like some things on the Zoom, you know, if they're using that. But I think the thing is that in any setting you set ground rules. And if I was a teacher, I would be like, hey, one ground rule is if you're not trying to address me or we're not having a conversation, please mute your end. You'll still be able to hear me, but we don't want to hear any background noise. Even if it's just, you know, a ruffling of a paper bag or whatever it is, you know, but even in the adult world, you be surprised how often you have to keep saying that.
Yes, I would say that even in the adult world. So yes.
So
Like
I mean, the teacher.
schools,
Would you
with
say,
the
Nick?
schools, most of them aren't they using WebEx? I mean, with all of them, Zoom, WebEx, and Adobe Connect, they still have the ability that if this person isn't muting or keeps forgetting to mute themselves, they still all of those, they still have the tools to mute everyone. So instead of her calling out this child, because
In front
obviously it
of
wasn't that
all those
child's
people.
fault, she could have just went on ahead and mute it, especially since she knew where it was coming from, mute it,
See
and
that?
maybe have a conversation with the parent afterwards, you know, and they could have had that. But it's like you said, it's all on the way it was addressed. That teacher was wrong, period, point blank. You were wrong. Yes, I know you had to tell them 50 million times, and you know you have to tell the adults 50 million times, but you on those, and when you're the presenter, you have the option to mute everybody. That's all she had to do, and then address it with that parent later. There was no need for all of that to get in an exchange with all these other students in front of it. So the teacher started that, and the teacher was wrong. Period, point blank. I don't care if the teacher is listening, baby. Guess what? You was wrong. Just admit you was wrong, because you could have avoided that whole confrontation in front of, especially in front of everyone else's children. That
Yeah.
And to add to what Vicky is saying, I remember I was listening to this article on NPR. They were talking about how kids are being educated. This is before COVID. It was just the environment of the house. Like we tell kids, like this was an argument on why sometimes homework is not assigned, because we can't account for every child having equity in their workspace at home. Like, is there a place for you to work? Is it a place for you to actually have quiet time to concentrate, or a table to write on, and all that kind of stuff that like we kind of just think like we just take for granted, right? Because education is a middle class institution and is based off of people who, you know, have the means, if you will. So like they were saying that it may be unfair to the student to assign those certain things when you don't know what's going on in the household. You know, is there like a household with like extended family living in there, and all kinds of different things that could impede upon the child.
That is something to consider.
And this was one criticism that I had, because I think that our school district should have put out information that says, you know, they told parents, well, we expect this kind of behavior from the kids, but they didn't really tell them the importance of saying, like, is there a way for you to have like a work area for that child? Is it a way to be able to ensure that there's less distractions during that time period? Whatever that looks like, you know what I mean? I don't know, you know, because I would think that would be something that's designed based off of every family, you know. But
Go ahead.
like you know how you have a fire escape plan for your house, you know, you should have, right now we should be working with families to have an educational plan, not just based off of what we're giving you and what that time frame looks like, but what that environment should look like. Like, even though the kid has been educated the whole day, are we still having them do 15, 20 minutes of reading? You know,
There was, and that's true. There was one where the parent said that the little girl was there, but her face wasn't showing up on the screen. The mother came on and said, "Well, she doing dishes right now." So that was the one. Then there was like earlier where I have over here where the mother gets a text because the son is in the bedroom, because I guess the classroom was in his bedroom and he was asleep. And then you have where this young man who is in the kitchen at the kitchen table, and their mom decides to come in and start cooking. So you have to take all of that into consideration regarding, like you said, their learning situation. Do they have it? Do they have the space where they can actually learn conducively? Because clearly at home is not a conducive workplace for most people. That's why they go to the schoolyard. Now, let me put this out there. Ohio, according to Ohio, they're supposed to get an additional for parents who are doing the total virtual. They're all virtual all year. You know, they already signed up for it. I think it's like 9 weeks first, and then they'll see if they want to send them, send their child to school. They're supposed to be getting a EBT card, a food stamp card, and it's supposed to be $300 on there, since they have to teach their children at home. Now, for those who are doing like the partial virtual and in school, depending on whatever day, like I said, the one school that I know, they do partial, like on Monday and Tuesday, certain grades, they come in, and then on Thursday and Friday, they're not there, they're virtually learning. They won't get it. How many people do you think are going to decide, okay, this is income for the household, I'm going to do virtual the entire time? How many people do you think are going to do it? Or do you think that people are going to still want to do the split? Or do you think they're going to take their children out of school altogether to get the extra income?
I think
that's not fair. Yeah, okay, your kid is split and they're going to school 2 days a week. They're still home 2 days a week learning. So that's not fair. If you're going to do it for all. If you're giving the extra 300 for the EBT, then you just do that extra 300, period. Or if for the parents if you don't want to give them the whole 300, then give them half because they are home for 2 days a week. Then give them 150. But I don't think it's fair for them to say that they cannot get it because their children are doing the split. So what?
I don't think they cannot, but they say for those who are virtually learning. So like Roogle was saying with their school district, the Youngstown City School District. So they're all doing virtual learning, and they'll get that additional monies. Now, to my understanding, in the school district, don't they have food available for them to come and pick up too? Certain schools?
A lot of them do.
actually in Youngstown, the food service, the school's food service, they're providing meals like they did in the spring.
Oh, when we first shut down.
So there's meals available for all students.
That's
all
nice.
Children between 0 to 18.
Okay. So even if you're not in that school district, you can still come and get a meal.
Yeah, I guess as long as you're a city resident, I believe that's the the caveat.
I think that's nice. Now, do you think that parents will, in other school districts, just for the sake of the conversation, do you think that they'll take their children out of school to get the extra income?
No.
Okay.
Part of the reason I don't think so is because they had a choice to say, I think this environment, part-time or full-time, is bad and I don't want my child to be there, but they chose to do that. So they might be choosing to do that based off of healthcare. I mean, based off of their health, maybe they're not at risk for anything, or not, they're not high risk in other areas, or their child care is part of their child care or something like that, or they really believe in the socialization, or the child wants to do that.
Or so the child can be fed.
Yeah, or the child be fed. But the thing is, if you're talking about in the city, those children have the opportunity to be fed anyway if they go to that school. If they, so I mean, to do it for the $300 a month and to disrupt additional.
Yeah, additional. So if they get food stamps already, they get an additional $300 for the child.
And I'm sorry, but you do have some ratchet folks that will go ahead and pull their kids out of school to get that additional $300. I mean, it is what it is. We know some some parents that are ratchet and that would do that because it's some additional income coming in, money, additional food, crab legs, whatever else they can get if they haven't stopped up by now. Listen, It is what it is. We know, everybody knows somebody like that.
Well, you kept that real. You said crab legs too. Yeah, it's a shortage on that crab boil serum that they be selling.
Because everybody trying to do crab. Not everybody can do a crab boil. Listen, y'all, some of y'all quit. Just leave it alone. I get so tired of looking at Facebook and seeing people doing crab boils and just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Because some of y'all crab boils be looking ratchet. Be looking like imitation boils.
You said imitation boil. Well, here's the thing though. With the crab boils, I did see one that had boiled eggs. Now, I'm not a cooker, but I've never seen a crab boil that had boiled eggs. Roogle, you cook. You seen a crab boil with boiled eggs?
I haven't seen that before.
Okay.
I think I did see that too. But yeah, when you go live in the South or be around people in the South that actually do the crab boils, you ain't seeing no eggs in there. Potatoes, andouille sausage, the crawfish, the crab,
and the corn. Yes, corn. I never see that. We got to move on to our ShopTalk question of the week. If your spouse doesn't want sex and the other spouse does it anyway, is that rape?
Yes, it is. Period. Point blank. End of conversation. It's rape.
I don't understand the question.
That is the question. I mean, Nyk, you want to explain the question?
The question is,
okay,
say you want sex and your wife not feeling like it, and she's like, no, I don't feel like it, and you hop on top and take it anyway. Is that considered rape? Do you think she would be wrong if she decided to call the police on you and file rape charges? Yeah, that's rape. Because if I tell you no, that's it.
Is that your understanding of the question?
What's your understanding?
I would agree with that scenario for sure. I would agree with that. You know, because I was thinking like, I don't know. I didn't hear what the question was or whatever. That's how I was asking for it to be.
Okay, here's the question again.
Okay.
If your spouse doesn't want sex and the other spouse does it anyway, is that rape?
It sounds like it.
Yes.
What you're saying, it sounds like it. Because because I'm thinking like at first, it sounds
It sounds like
regardless of whether you're married or not, no is still no. I don't feel like it. I don't want to be bothered. I don't feel like I don't want to be bothered.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that fact. But
right.
Speaking as, and I'm going to get a little personal here. Speaking as a person that is like, my wife wants to have a child, right? And I'd be tired. I'd be like, I really don't want to go in here and do this. I want to eat something, go to sleep, right? But I gotta do what I gotta do, right? You know what I'm saying? And so that's how when you first said it, I thought personally what I'm going with, what we're trying to do, and I was like, okay, but when that's why I asked for like, did I hear it right? Asking for clarity or that sort of thing. But how you're saying it definitely sounds like it's sexual assault.
Okay. I have I'll read some of these comments.
I read some of them and I was appalled by some of them.
Okay, Nyk, wait. People are entitled to their thoughts.
Right.
And most of the guys said no. And then they went into Bible verses. Did you see where they went into the Bible where y'all already know I'll be messing up some scripture, but it says that body is not hers once you get married. Am I right? Live studio audience? Okay. And so you had those that went that way. There was one guy that said the marriage will never work if you get married under a Christian covenant. That person is not to keep themselves, what to say, you're their spouse. but it would be sexual assault. This person feels under their will. So that's when you go, you know, you kind of like, am I doing church or am I doing state? So this particular topic is actually church and state. You got the Bible, then you have the state saying that it is rape.
Well,
Now, go ahead.
like if we take it into a biblical terms and they say that you're supposed to cleave to your wife and you're supposed to honor your wife and that sort of thing, and she chooses not to engage in something, aren't you being disrespectful or unhonorable to her if you force her to do that? You know,
Listen, a female said,
I can tell you, I can prove to you that that Moses played tennis. Because in the Bible it says he chose not to serve in the Pharaoh's court. You know, you know what I mean? I mean, you can take one thing and like, you know, change it and, you know, whatever. You know, I think like when you take in all those other factors too, you know, you got to consider that, right? I mean, wouldn't it be if you're supposed to?
Here's another comment. One said yes, but if you keep asking, then maybe she'll say yeah. Another female said coercion is rape also. When you're married?
Coercion. Well, she said the word coercion.
Yeah, no.
Coercion is not like that's serious. The word coercion. You know, because that doesn't sound like, that sounds like to me, well, if you don't want to have sex, then get out my house. You know what I mean? That's
how often do you hear that? I mean, not in your household, but I mean.
No, I mean in general. I mean,
it's not like a blackmail.
I've heard people say blackmail. I've heard people use those sort of tactics if someone didn't like something that was going on. I don't know if it was necessarily tied to sex, but you know, I've heard that being the end of an argument. Well, if you don't like this, then you can leave, or you don't want that, you can go. You know,
right?
Listen, for those that choose to quote the Bible, for people will quote the Bible when it's a narrative that's going to fit them, which kills me because you're not completely going to live it. Because also in the Bible is telling you about coveting thy neighbor's wife. You're not supposed to cheat. When you married, you cling to your wife, and you know what I mean. So you still have people.
But if your wife says no. If your wife says no, and then, okay, so you don't want to rape her, so you're like, okay, whatever, then you go somewhere else, are you wrong?
Yes, because you're married.
So
that's what I'm saying. People are using the Bible.
So her using her, wait, Nick, listen. So her using her punani as leverage is okay?
No, she right. If you using your girl for leverage, you're wrong. You're married, but I mean, in the same sense, it's like better for worse, richer. If you're not feeling up to it, then your spouse should understand. And that's not only for that's not only for the men with the women, it's for the women with the men.
Okay, so what about if he uses fistina, is it okay?
If he uses what?
Fistina. If he uses his own hand, his own fist. If he pleases himself, is it okay?
Baby, you need me to get you a towel and some lotion?
Now, what you just said, now listen to it, hear me clear for the sake of the conversation. If the Bible says that you two are one, and it's okay for him to use fistina, but it's not okay for him to have sex with his wife when she doesn't want it.
If I don't feel like it,
what you got?
It's like if I don't feel like it, I don't feel like it. You need me to help you with fistina? I got the fist. I'll be fistina. You go ahead.
Okay.
You know, you do have to compromise. Like seriously, you really have to. So it don't come to that point. You have to compromise because there's going to be some times where the wife don't feel like it. There's going to be some times where the man don't feel like it. So y'all do need to compensate and compromise. Period. Point blank. So if you don't feel like it, but he trying to get him some. Like you said, he want to use fistina, baby. I'll get the towel, I'll get the lotion, and I got fistina for you.
Okay, then. Now, on this particular Shop Talk question of the week, ironically, no won. Is it rape? And it's a lot of people, and it's some females too that said no. They said it was not rape. And then there was a guy that said, so wait, so no mean yes and yes mean no? And then the girl responded, she said, well, you usually don't say no, you know, and you just go ahead and just go for what you know. You know what I mean? She said that she doesn't say no. There's some females that said absolutely, and there's some guys that says no, it's rape. However, in state, like first and second degree sexual assault, you usually get 20 to 30 years, respectively. Now, guess how much you get for marital rape?
I don't know, probably more.
Less, 10.
Oh, okay.
But here's a catch. The spouse has to report it within 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Even if they're living in separate homes, you have 30 days to report it. But you get 10 years.
My spouse.
So it is rape. Legally, it is rape, according to state. It is rape, and marital rape is less, 10 years versus the assault, sexual assault, if you're not married, is 20 to 30. But it makes me ask the question, so it's not sexual assault if you're married? Because they have like first and second degree sexual assault, 20 to 30 for somebody who's not your spouse. But it says marital rape, in order to prosecute, they have to report it within 30 days and 10 years. You're sentenced for 10 years.
I ain't reporting nothing. If I tell you no and you do it anyway, I'm just turn around and punch you. Period.
Okay. Now that's an assault. Now that's an assault, assault and battery. Now I don't know how many years you're gonna get back. Look, both back and forth. Okay, you know, we all just gonna leave. We gonna drop all the charges. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. There you go.
Yeah, you got it. It's done. All right, Nyk.
Exactly. If I tell you no, that's what I mean. I'm gonna turn around and I'm gonna knock the hell out you. Excuse my language. I said no, I don't feel like it tonight. Now I'll make up for it the next day or so. But if I don't feel like it that night, bruh, you better back on that, because if I gotta tell you no again and you still doing it, it's gonna be a fight in this bedroom. Period. Point
now,
blank.
you know what? A guy commented, I don't know if you read that particular one on there, where he said that if she says no, he's immediately turned off. So he don't want it. And he said that did you read that particular one? That comment? It's something comment.
He was immediately turned off. I didn't see that.
And when he said that he was turned off, he said, I'm turned off and I'll never ask again. So sounds like that marriage is like over, like I need to be out of it, file for divorce. Now they do grant divorces based on not performing your wifely duties, or that's considered a wifely duty. Did you know that?
No, well, yeah, that is considered your wifely duty, but then that also falls on the man too. Don't just put everything on the wife, it also falls on the man too. But there again, this is where the conversation needs to be had about everything, financial, sexual, all of that, before you get married and take that step. People really nowadays need to just like, okay, listen, there's going to be days where sometimes I don't feel like having sex. If you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, all of these conversations.
Yeah, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Roogle, I believe when he got married, they had counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did. Now, do you think that people are going to say what you want to hear in counseling? Do you think they're going to be truthful?
I think the biggest part is, I think like if it was one-on-one with that person, you would, but sometimes with that third person in there kind of mediating it, you may make
it look good for that third person, like especially if you in front of the preacher doing the counseling.
Okay, hold on, Nyk, because I'm gonna ask you. Finish, Roogle. What'd you say?
I mean, I mean, I heard what she's saying about make it look good, but I think sometimes there's like how much of that truly intimate relationship or that intimacy that you want do you want to share with somebody? Like sometimes, like I think you want to discover it. You know what I mean? Versus like, well, should we talk about this? Like, does it seem mechanical? Versus like this is something on the forefront, because some people may look at. I'm trying to think of one of the issues. Sex was one of the issues that they, when I went through counseling, that they had. We went through like a 10-week curriculum and all this other stuff. It might have been more than 10 weeks, but it was a lot of stuff, and they still send me emails. But the thing was like, they want you to go back when you do that homework and have those intimate conversations. But sometimes like expressing it in that moment may not be what you want to do, especially, you know, it just may not be what you want to do, but you got to be honest with yourself to have that once you leave the room.
Okay. Nyk.
I really think that, yeah, some people are just gonna make it look good, or they're just gonna tell that person what they want to hear to get what they want. But to me, you really do need to have those conversations before you say I do. And if you have those conversations honestly and truthfully, and really get to know that person and know what they expect out of you and what you expect, and they know what you expect out of them, then you can go ahead and make that decision. Okay, well, is this person right for me? And you won't have as many divorces as you have now, because you know what to expect out of that other person and you're okay with it, and they're okay with it, versus, okay, this is a surprise, okay, now it's becoming a problem. People just don't say what you think that other person want to hear, and people do that all the time. But yeah,
They do it
even
all the time
counseling,
because
they do
they
it.
want a husband. Roogle, in your marriage counseling, did you have questions that came up that you forgot to ask? Like, did they say, oh, you know, and then you say, oh, well, that is important. Did,
I think I would say I would think there were some things that I probably should have asked. But my marriage is a little bit different as far as like being married to a foreigner. Um,
mm-hmm,
like there was some things more that I should get in more in depth with about the culture. Uh,
mm-hmm.
that I didn't do. But with that being said, though, people should still have that in-depth conversation with people about their culture, because I mean, it would be like if someone had a different religion or they grew up differently than you are. Like, are you truly attuned to what that means? And there were some things that I truly didn't really think of because I had my American view, visor on. And you look at it from that point of view, versus like, okay, I'm not only am I talking about bringing a person into my life, I'm talking about bringing a whole nother culture into my life. I mean, we sell black people, you know what I mean, but it was different, and I think that's something, and it's not. I wouldn't use the phrase unequally yoked, because that's not what it is, but it's more or less like the acknowledgement of like what this means, and that was something I wish I would have been more prepared on. Not to say that it would have made me change my decision, but just to have just to be able to truly evaluate that in that space would have been good.
Okay, so what's your thoughts on the statistics where I wouldn't even say statistics, the saying that women marry for the white picket fence, the house, and the family, and men marry for companionship? This is over 40 years old.
Hmm. Um, I mean, what does that? Okay, when I hear what you're saying, and I think about those conveniences or those things that woman is married.
Nyk, you next, so get ready.
What does that mean? Well, I think that means like there's a few things you can take from that. That's stability. That's um, having something that you like. That like as far as like property and things like that. That's like building like the foundation for a future. So I mean, I don't know if one of them, if companionship way stronger than stability. And I'm not talking about just financial stability. I mean, that stability can be, you know, relationship stability and that sort of thing. You know, when you look at that white picket fence house or whatever, you also have to imagine, well, someone's doing the flower bed, someone's cutting the grass, someone's painting the house, someone's
We
involved.
don't see all that. Look, it's not us that's doing it.
I mean, but that's how, you can't maintain. You got to maintain it. You can have it, but if you have it, you don't maintain it. Then what is that, right? You know, so companionship that they're saying the man has probably leans into more of like maintaining that dream or that stability that she would like, right?
Right. Okay, Nyk, same question. Over 40, do you think it's true that women marry, and these are over 40, where the women usually don't have a child, but society groomed us. You have your family, your children, your white picket fence, nice little dog. You want everything perfect, but we want somebody else to pay it, obviously. But Nyk, what's your thoughts on that?
Over 40, I really think it's for companionship and stability.
From a female's perspective?
Yes,
Okay.
over 40. Under 40, then yeah, that's when you get into the white picket fence and the family and all that. Over 40 is for companionship and stability. If you over 40, you want companionship, get a dog, get a cat, get a bird, get a fish, something.
But usually they say that men over 40, they marry for companionship. Women over 40 marry for the white picket fence, the dog, and the family.
Men over 40 is probably companionship as well, but then
For you, okay.
Yeah, but you still have some of those that get married and still decide they want to cheat. So therefore, for them, I don't know what it is.
You're the one all the way to the left. Let's stay focused on what we're talking about.
But yeah, men over 40, I think anyone over 40, it's more or less companionship, and women add stability.
Okay, I know someone who actually got married over 40 days. They didn't have their children or anything until they got married. They wanted to be married, and they did it. They did it that way. It was probably harder for them to have children, you know what I mean, at that time. But then you have where men over 40 is like, I already didn't have mine. I'm not trying to start over. So, and I'm not saying that that's why that's out there. You know what I mean? As far as men, companionship, women, the family, the white picket fence. But Roogle broke it down when he said stability. I think it's stability all along.
Mm-hmm.
So with hopes. But I don't know, because see, back when you're under 40, you know, they got to be cute. Well, over 40, you start dealing, you be like, make sure they dress nice. You're not looking at like the shallow things. You know what I mean? Be like, they got light eyes, he's nice looking. Yeah, our babies will be beautiful. So that's it under. Then over, you be like, I ain't trying to reproduce. You know, some people feel like I ain't trying to reproduce. He already treat me good. He's stable, right, Roogle? He cut the grass and planting flower beds and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, why is he cut? It was, I forgot who the comedian, I think it was Chris Rock. He said, if a man could get a woman to have sex with him in a cardboard box, he would never buy a house. I think that's what he said. It was something like that, right? So, you know, so like, it's kind of funny, me being married, there's things that I definitely could have went without, right? But there were things that like she definitely had to have, you know. I mean, not when I say it, I don't want to be like, you know, not so much materialistic, but it would be like trying to give a good example, because it sounds kind of materialistic when I think about it, right?
But I mean, go like an apartment. Would if you could have stayed in an apartment, would you have?
No.
Okay, so you're like apartment.
I'm talking about stuff like, I want you to be able to see this, and y'all can tell me what you think. I'm sorry, I'm standing up looking crazy. You see those?
Oh, so, come on, man. Okay, window treatments.
You see those curtains? I'd have never bought them curtains, but
You know what?
Yeah, you wouldn't want those.
Put her out there like that.
I mean, she liked them. Like, I mean, I would have, like, it wouldn't have ever been in my mind to say, oh, I need to get these curtains. Like they're gold and bronze and all this stuff and stuff. Really, I guess nice curtains. We had compliments on them all the time.
Yeah, nice. It's window treatment. So you're going to deal with that window treatments.
I'm just saying, I mean, I don't think I would have put that much thought into it. You know, I'd be like,
yeah, you know, women like to decorate things.
Right. So I
men
can see
like
that.
whatever.
yeah.
I
So,
like to decorate too, but I'm in my apartment and it is what it is till I move back to a house. Then I'm gonna decorate. I ain't worried about this apartment.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like those particular things. Like I would have just had up something, right?
So blinds or something.
It would have matched, but it wouldn't have been that. Like it's like little, like I don't know, crystals or something hanging off of the things and everything.
All right. We talked about all the stuff that we need to talk about. I want Nyk to tell us about her scammer because she harassed the scammers that call her phone. That now the one calling back for counseling. Now I don't know how you did that, Nyk. And he talking about, is it okay if he checks back in once a week with you? So tell me how did you tell me about the scammer and what he said that got him into scamming people? How did he?
It's the same scam about some stuff that I bought, and then they about to take $700 some off of my out of my account of my plastic card, and you know, right then they say plastic card, that's a scam. And so I just nicely told him, I was like, listen. He asking me questions, asked my name. I said, you know my name. You called me. Well, you called me. I said, no, I pressed 1 because I waited and you called me back. So just go ahead. I was like, let me tell you something now. I already know you're scamming me, and I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to harass you. So, you know, he's still asking, well, what's your email? You know my email. So he gets to spitting all my information. Okay, well, why you asking? I ain't telling you nothing on the phone if you already have it in front of you. So I'm like, why are you scamming people? We get to talk, go back and forth. Now I was like, I'm letting you know now I'm going to harass you like I harassed the other ones to the point where you're going to end up blocking me. So I was like, why are you scamming people? So oh boy finally broke it down. I was like, just admit it, you scam. Why are you doing this? Karma is God go get you. Your karma is gonna be bad. So he finally admitted and told me why he was scamming people, because he got scammed out of his money. He said he had a big, you know, a lot of his money he invested in some type of stock company, and whatever company it was, scammed all these other people and took off with their money. So he said, now he was like, I don't have any money. He said, I gotta sell my car now so that I can have somebody for somewhere to stay. So I had no other choice but to get into this scamming thing. And I was just like, I went in and started counseling. Then I started preaching to him to the point where old boy was like, you know what, thank you. You gave me a lot to think about. Is it okay if I check back with you every week and let you know my progress?
Well, look at there. You got a counseling service, Nyk.
Child counseling service at church, because I started preaching up in there.
Listen.
Like, yeah, and I tell them all, look, they listen. No, thank you. I already know you scam. Click. As soon as I say scam, they click. Some of them want to cuss and start saying nasty little things to you, cuss you out. That's another reason you know it's a scam. And then I nicely tell them, I'm going to harass you now. And then I keep calling the number back to the point where they let me go to voicemail. And then from voicemail, I'm automatically blocked.
Hilarious. Scamming the scammer. All right, lovely people. For those who don't know, I am on the road. So me being on the road, I'm sure you heard like the knocks, the room service that you need to clean it. I was like, are you gotta be kidding me? Like, is this happening right now? So if you hear all that lovely stuff, just know that Shop Talk with Mel is on the go. It is that time, lovely people. I thoroughly enjoyed you as I do each and every single Saturday. You already know what it is. Find you, embrace you. Most importantly, always, always love you. Until next week, people. Shop Talk.
And we got it this time.
Did we do it right? Did we get it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I hope you did.
I think we got